If you are looking at Chattanooga as a relocation destination, then this video is for you. I'm going to break down some of the top pros and cons that you might want to consider to decide whether or not Chattanooga is the right fit for you and your family. My name is Whitney Proctor. I'm a realtor with Real Broker here in Chattanooga, and I love working with relocation families. If that's something that you might be looking at and you want to talk to me about more information, reach out to the contact information below so that we can get started on your relocation journey. Okay, let's get into it. Pro number one, convenient location. Chattanooga is perfectly situated between Nashville, Knoxville, and Atlanta. It literally sits right in the middle of all three of them, so it's perfect to get to any of the above. One of the great benefits of that is that Chattanooga does have its own airport if you want something smaller and more accessible, but obviously Atlanta is a huge airport hub, and so you've got it just right there a couple hours away to get to for more flight options. Nashville and Knoxville are both a little bit smaller, but definitely more sizable than Chattanooga, so that gives you that option as well. Another benefit about the location is that Interstate 75 runs literally right through the middle of town. So it's super convenient if you are traveling a lot, if you are commuting for work in any way, or you just want to not have to drive 30 minutes to get to the interstate. You won't have to worry about that here because it's super conveniently located on all sides of the city. Pro number two is the beautiful scenery. Chattanooga is literally called Scenic City, and it gets that nickname for a very good reason. The term refers to the mountains, the valleys, the ridges, and everything that surrounds the city literally on all four sides. There's also the Tennessee River that runs right through the middle of town, which just adds to the overall aesthetic, and the city has really taken advantage of that being a viewpoint and perfectly placed several different restaurants and tourist locations that you can view and have that as a great background. Pro number three, Chattanooga is still really affordable, relatively speaking anyway. Some people may or may not agree with me because affordable is a relative term, but if you're looking at simple statistics across the country, Chattanooga still falls within that affordable price point. The average price point right now for the US is sitting at $412, whereas Chattanooga is sitting at $324. So if you're looking at it just on paper, that's a pretty substantial difference from the average price point. That's an even more significant saving, especially if you're coming from somewhere really big like Los Angeles or Seattle, where the pricing over there tends to be between 60 and 65% more expensive than Chattanooga. That's a huge difference, especially if you're able to take advantage of selling in the more expensive area and then relocating here with more affordable options. According to Forbes, Tennessee as a whole for the entire state is still sitting at number 6 for the most affordable state in the US. That's pretty substantial. Obviously, it's going to depend on the city, but like I said, Chattanooga is still sitting $324 compared to US at $412. That's pretty substantial. Okay, we've talked about a few pros. Now we have to talk about the negatives. Con number one, Chattanooga is allergy central. If you have any significant aversions to allergies or pollen, this genuinely may not be the city for you. The Allergy and Asthma Foundation ranks Chattanooga number 18 on the worst places to live if you have bad allergies. The worst, not 18 on the best, the worst. So if you are super sensitive to pollen, this is probably not the place for you. We also have a lot of ragweed. Now, one of the benefits that I just mentioned about Chattanooga was the beautiful scenery. This is the price you pay for being surrounded by trees and all of the beautiful things to look at. Unfortunately, the pollen comes with it. So keep that in mind if allergies are something that you're sensitive to. Con number two on the list is traffic and slow infrastructure development. Now, if you're coming from a big city, you might laugh at me when I say we have bad traffic, but I promise the locals notice. This is something that's really been a sore point over the last decade as we've seen so much development and construction. There's tons of new people coming in, there's tons of new development coming in. There's plenty of pros about that, but if we're not keeping up with the infrastructure, it definitely can cause some pain points. And that's what people are feeling when we're talking about the traffic. Not only are there more people on the roads, but a lot of the roads are small. There may be 2-lane roads where you don't have any way to go around. And so a lot of the hiccup and the headache and the slow traffic comes not necessarily just on the interstate, but on these regular roads to and from in the suburbs that just really haven't caught up to the amount of people that are here. Con number three is the weather. Tennessee as a whole is rated really high for humidity, and if you're coming from somewhere where humidity is not an issue, it may be really stifling to you in the summer. Not necessarily an issue in the winter, early spring, or late fall, but during those peak summer months, let's say April to even October, it can be pretty substantial on the rating, and it might be something that you are not used to. So keep that in the back of your mind when you're considering the weather. Another thing about the weather here is it is rainy and cloudy. If you are accustomed to sunny Scottsdale, you will not be experiencing the same thing here. That's not to say we don't have plenty of days of beautiful sunshine, but if you're looking statistically, we're about half and half. So for every day of sun, you've got a day of clouds and rain that are coming. The average sunshine possibility hovers between 50 and 60%. So that is a possibility that you're gonna have a lot of cloudy days when you're here in Chattanooga. Chattanooga also rains about 30% of the year. If you're comparing us with Seattle, our average rainfall is not very far apart from them. So that's something that people sometimes are not really used to when they're relocating. We need all the rain to keep the trees and the grass and the luscious plants and everything beautiful and alive, but it is a little bit of a bummer if you're used to something a little bit more dry and sunny. Also falling under the topic of weather is tornadoes. While we are by no means in Tornado Alley, it is definitely something that has come about the last decade or so as the weather has just shifted across the country with climate changes. Like it or not, that is something that is happening, and that's something that people maybe are not accustomed to for this area. If you are relocating to the area and tornadoes are something that are of concern to you and you are not able to find a house with a basement, there are some really good alternative options that you could look at, like built-in storm shelters that you can put into the garage, either dugout or freestanding, or you could also look into maybe building a safe room in the house. And last but not least on our con list is the terrain. Something people don't realize a lot about Tennessee until they research it is how wide the state is, and how we have three very distinct regions of west, central, and east. The east borders along a whole bunch of mountains, as we've talked about in the pros, but because of that, that really significantly affects the terrain. Because the state is so wide, it covers vastly different terrain and landscape. While the western side tends to be more flat, the eastern side has several mountain regions running through, and Chattanooga in particular sits literally right between the Cumberland Plateau and Blue Ridge Mountains. They're beautiful to look at, but it definitely will affect what the ground is like, and there's a reason we call it Rocky Top. In the last few years, I've helped over 40 families relocate to the Chattanooga area, and it's one of my favorite things. If that's something you're interested in, or you have any questions that you would like for me to answer, reach out to me right here in the contact information below. Also, if there's a topic that you're interested in, definitely leave me a comment or send me a DM so I can make sure to cover the topic in one of my next videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more local content.